Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stripping away all your modern comforts and plunging right into the visceral, freezing reality of London during the Great Frost of 1683. We're going to look past the grand historical summaries and instead focus on the gritty, day-to-day survival of the people who actually lived through this incredible anomaly of nature. Imagine this. You're Ned. You're 14 years old, and you're waking up in pitch darkness, lying on a rough canvas sack stuffed with flattened, crackling straw. Really feel the weight of the covers on whatever you sleep on today. Because this kid we're following, he'd give absolutely anything for just 1 minute of your comfort. Your whole reality is the freezing floor of a damp stone cellar right near the Thames docks. It's a space you share with your dad and 2 younger brothers. You don't have a mattress. You just open your eyes in complete blackness, trying to somehow gather the energy to face a city completely locked in ice. Let's really step into this sensory experience for a second. The air in your cellar is like a thick, humid soup. It holds on to the night's chill like a grudge, you know? Every single breath you take is a harsh mix of sharp coal smoke, the undeniable musk of unwashed bodies, cramped in a tiny space, and that relentless, earthy smell of damp stone. So, you get up, you pull on a coarse wool tunic, which, let's be honest, is more patch than actual tunic at this point, and slip your feet into these dangerously thin-soled leather shoes. You can literally feel every freezing cobblestone underneath you as you navigate a building that is slowly settling into the river mud. Moving on to the River of Glass. When you finally step outside, you realize the public pumps are completely frozen solid. So your morning kicks off by literally melting a chunk of dirty ice over a tiny iron stove just to get a sip of water. There is no simple water run today. The absolute basics of life demand a massive amount of labor before the sun even fully rises. And here's the kicker. You have to drink this melted ice while actively trying to ignore the terrifying idea of miasma. Miasma, if you remember, is that 17th century belief that bad air is what carries deadly winter sickness. Without any concept of modern germ theory, the actual air you breathe just feels like this constant looming threat over your family. Looking down the street, those overhanging timber-framed houses almost touch each other, blocking out what little light there is. And rolling in off the river is a classic pea souper. Now, this isn't your average morning fog. We're talking about a yellowish-green, choking smog that tastes like straight soot and coal tar, weighing heavily on your lungs as you head toward the docks. And the noise, or rather the lack of it, the usual roar of the rushing water is just gone. It's replaced by this really eerie silence because the Thames has frozen solid. And I mean solid. It's an astonishing 11 inches deep. Where massive ships usually sail and the chaos of maritime trade echoes, there is just a vast, unbroken sheet of ice. Which brings us to the poverty penalty. Let's break down the actual math of survival here, because when that river freezes solid, your father, who makes his living as a waterman on a boat, suddenly finds his livelihood completely useless. The water stops moving, and his income just vanishes in an instant, plunging your family into an immediate economic crisis. And since you've got zero savings to fall back on, you immediately hit this poverty penalty. You're forced to buy basic necessities, like coal, by the scuttle, basically a tiny little bucket. The wealthy? They're buying it by the ton. They stockpile and comfortably ride out the freeze. But you are buying your survival day by day, scoop by literal scoop. So what does that actually mean? It means you end up paying double the wholesale price for absolutely everything. Why? Simply because you don't have the cash up front. It's a brutal paradox, isn't it? It quite literally costs more money to be poor. You are penalized economically just for lacking a financial cushion. To power through this, your fuel for the day is just a hard chunk of dense, dark rye bread that kind of tricks your stomach into feeling full. You wash that down with a cup of sour ale that tastes pretty much like lye, just to put some backbone in you. It's a harsh breakfast meant to sit heavy and give you just enough artificial warmth to brave that freezing fog. But, you know, as the local laborers used to say, stronger for what? You're just staying patchwork underneath to generate a profit for somebody else. You're certainly not building a future or saving up for a better life. You're burning calories strictly to earn the few copper coins you need to buy tomorrow's bucket of coal. Let's move on to the city of tents. This brutal everyday reality plays out against a bizarre, sprawling, temporary metropolis that has sprung up right on top of the frozen river. Where watermen used to row, an entire pop-up city has literally taken over the ice, completely transforming the geography of London. Out on that ice, the contrast is just jarring. We see the rich treating this freak weather event like a giant amusement park, while the poor are out there risking their lives in the freezing smog just to scrape by. The river is a massive playground for those with money and a desperate workplace for those without. I mean, the wealthy are having the time of their lives. They're roasting whole oxen over open fires right on the ice. They're having custom souvenir cards printed, and they're even riding heavy horse-drawn coaches down the frozen Thames like it's a paved highway. It is a completely surreal carnival atmosphere. People are feasting right over the deep frozen currents of the river. But you're out there finding work as a link boy. Your job is to carry a burning tar torch through that blinding fog, acting as a guide so these wealthy gentlemen don't accidentally wander off the edge of the ice into the freezing water. Without your light, that heavy pea souper makes it incredibly easy for them to get disoriented and face a deadly fall. And it is a punishing shift. You're moving almost entirely by instinct, dodging those galloping coach horses, all while inhaling thick, toxic tar smoke straight into your lungs, all for a few coppers. You have to be hyper alert, slipping around on this dangerous terrain while the rich party around you in their heavy coaches. Finally, we reach the City of Dust. As the sun eventually sets, completely unseen behind that wall of smog, by the way, you head back home. The smell of the rich folks roasting meat is still clinging to your tattered clothes. The carnival keeps going behind you, but your day of sheer survival has ended, and your pockets are only marginally heavier than when you woke up. You are a true child of ice and smoke. You only find peace in those few, brief hours when the freezing city finally quiets down. The heavy buckets, the freezing stone stairs, the constant soot, that's your entire world, paused only by the relief of sleep in a pitch-black cellar. So this brings us to a huge question. When extreme weather creates a giant playground for the wealthy, who are the unseen laborers actually paying the price? History absolutely loves to talk about the roasted oxen and those fun souvenir cards from the 1683 Frost Fair, but it almost never pauses to look at the link boy holding the torch. The next time you sink into the nice, quiet warmth of your modern bed, take a second to remember Ned and the brutal survival economics of the frozen Thames. It really leaves us with this provocative thought. As we marvel at the grand, sweeping spectacles of our own time, whose unseen labor and silent endurance are we comfortably ignoring in the background? Something to think about. Sleep well, and I'll see you in our next explainer.